Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Passionate Professional series. My name is Tunde Koyi, and I'll be the host of tonight's episode. The Passionate Professional series is an offshoot of the Passion and Purpose of, which is a channel on YouTube that shares useful knowledge so that you can maximize your passions and your purpose so you don't enjoy just success in life, but also fulfillment. This is episode 25 of the Passionate Professional series, and our guest for today is Ellie Turner Coughlin, and I can tell you that she's in the studio already and she's ready to add some value to us. So sit tight, fasten your seatbelts, and get ready to learn from this insightful discussion between Ellie and myself today. I always like to reiterate the reason why the Passionate Professional series has been holding for the last 2 years, and it's basically because for many of us as professionals, we sometimes get to that point in our lives, in our careers, and we wonder what exactly is it I'm passionate about? Am I really passionate about my job? For some of us, yes, we find that passion through our jobs. For some of us, we find passion through other things. Regardless of what you're passionate about, the only way that you can truly be happy is by doing what you are passionate about. And that's why I made a mission to look for people who are passionate about what they do and to bring us closer to such people so that you can see that, oh, if this person can do it, if this person can actually make a living or can find happiness through their passions, then I can do it as well. It's just that proximity principle, bringing you closer to them so that you can see that if they can do it, I can do it. The illustration I like using best for this is bringing a candlestick close to the flame, and then you can find out you can actually shine as well. You can light up your candlestick and you can shine as well. As I always like to say, it's not just a two-way discussion. It's not just a discussion between Ellie and myself. For those of us who will be watching live, please feel free to post comments, post questions, post suggestions. If anything that we discuss or anything, any nugget drops and you feel that this is a gem for you, please post it there because it helps to encourage myself and our guests to know that someone is listening and our conversation is actually making a difference in your life. And for those who will be watching the replay as well, I also appreciate and I truly appreciate your interaction as well. So you can always still post comments and you can always respond to it. I feel that even watching a replay is also a form of commitment because many of us like being in the action live. You don't like watching the replays, but for those of us that still get to watch the replays, I truly appreciate it. So just before I bring up our guest for today, as we always like to do, I always like to ask a question before we start, something just to get us thinking. And and in the spirit of that, I think because it's like a sporting season. I know as I'm talking, England team is playing as well. There's been the recent cricket matches as well, and it kind of like ties up nicely with the time that we are in the year. It's kind of like the midpoint of the year, and with sports games, we always want to when we get to certain quarters or midpoints, we always want to stop and take stock and go to the dressing room and take stock. And I think it also kind of relates with what's happening in the year. It's about that midpoint of the year. If you look at today, it's the 30th of June, and with the first 6 months of the year have gone, and then moving on to the next 6 months of the year. I think it's a good time to take stock of what's happening in the year. And the question that I would like to ask us today is this: who's in your corner? Who is in your corner? And the this question actually comes from the sport of boxing. I don't know if you watch boxing regularly, but in the sport of boxing, after every round, the boxers go to their seats, and there's someone in their corner, someone who's there to attend to their wounds, attend to their psyche, and in reality, in real life, the question we should be asking ourselves that same question: that who is in your corner? Who's that person, or who are those people that you go back to when you've gone out, you face the challenges of life? Who are those people that you can fall back on, that you can rely on? The most famous boxers will tell you, even though it's not all about their skill, it's also about the people that they have in their corners, their coaches, their mentors. They call them their cornermen. So, for example, like Tyson had someone called Angelo Di Constantine or something like that. He was always there to encourage you, know, even when you're taking the beating up, and even before he died, he kept saying, "I know you're going to be the heavyweight champion of the world." He never saw that happen, but because of those words he kept telling him in his ears, he became that, and he always puts the credit back to him. So at this point, the midpoint of the year, I want us to ask ourselves that question: who are the people that we have in our corner? Who are those true people that we can rely on? Who are those people that we know for certain that will be there for us? Because at this point in time, we live in a world of superficiality. Lots of people have billions of people that are following them, but when it boils down to the people that are truly there for them during the hard times, and also to share the successes, sometimes people can be found wanting. So take stock, and the kind of people that you want to have in your corner are people that are cheerleaders, people that will cheer you on, people that are co-achievers, people that want to achieve with you, that want to push you on, people that are challengers, that don't want you to settle for just to settle, that push you to do something better, people that are mentors that can hold you by the hand and take you along, and people that can be accountability partners as well, people that when you're going wrong, they can tell you and put you right, people that you can open up your hearts to and tell them when you're going wrong. So think about this, and also while you're thinking about people that are in your corner, also ask yourself, who am I in the corner for? Who am I there for? Who am I there to support? And I think that's something that you can sit and reflect on at this midpoint of the year. Who is in your corner, and whose corner are you in? And before I bring up our guest, I think this quote actually sums it up nicely. It says it's a quote by several people have been attributed to these quotes, like Tony Robbins and other people. But I think I like the endpoints that have him careful to it. He said the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your relationships. The quality of your business is no different. So, because sometimes we separate our lives from our businesses, but even if it boils down to businesses, our professions as well, the quality of our businesses, the quality of our careers also boils down to the quality of our relationships in life, in business, in career. And I'm glad that the person that we're bringing up today is someone that is going to talk about this subject even further. And without wasting time, I'm going to go ahead to introduce our guest for today. So our guest for today is Ellie Turner Coughlin. She's a TEDx speaker. I actually met her at the TEDx event. She's an event host, and she's a co-founder of Home of Connection, which is something that she'll tell us more about. She's also a qualified coach, and she's a member of the National Council of Integrative Psychotherapists. She has over a decade-long experience in luxury hospitality and events, and she's produced successful events and partnerships for big brands like Patek Philippe, Fendi, LVMH, and she was most recently the head of events for Gary Hotel. She regularly delivers talks and consults businesses, creating experiences to bring people together in a purposeful way, whether that's in form of a newsletter, panel talks, events, retreats, or workshops. She's also building Silent Break. I like the name Silent Break, which is a digital detox hotel and nature resort in Portugal. She specializes in helping people connect, network, and build better business relationships. Our mission is to empower meaningful connection by improving the conversation around self discovery and well being. So, with that, I would like to bring up Ellie to the stage as we get started on our discussion today.
Hey,
Hi, Ellie. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
Very well. Like I was saying earlier, it's been a long weekend, but I'm happy to be doing this and to be speaking with you today.
Me too. And I love the quote as well you just used. I feel like everything you said then pretty much sums up exactly what I think and believe as well. So it was really good.
Good. Thank you. Thank you so much. How's your weekend going?
Yeah, good, thank you. Nice actually. It's been a busy few weeks, so I'm really enjoying chilling and having family time at the weekends. So
Yeah, I think that's something that we should not undermine the importance of family time and how it can actually help us to recharge.
for
I know
sure.
I've read out your book. Sorry, carry on. You're going to say something.
No, I was just saying for sure, recharging, I think is so important, like finding that space and that time whenever you can to recharge and refuel. So yeah, exactly what I'm doing as well.
Yeah, I think one of our previous sessions there was something that, just in line with what we're just saying, that was a quote that almost anything would work better when you unplug it and restart it. So you are not different as well. You sometimes need to unplug, and I think weekends are important for that. I think we need to take breaks, and I like the word silent break, which is something that we'll go to in a bit. But yeah, I just read out your bio. Um, Wonderful things that you're doing. Could you just tell us a bit more about yourself? where you're from. I know that's the professional value, but I always like learning a bit more about the guests, like what's your background, anything interesting about yourself, really.
Yeah, of course. I mean, so I'm from the northwest of England. And then, yeah, I kind of obviously grew up there, went to school there. And then when I was about 18, I went to university. I came down to London for university. I loved like where I'm from. It's such a lovely place. But I was also quite excited to, I think when you're from somewhere like that, you don't want to go to London. Like it always seems very exciting for university. So I came to, yeah, London for university. And then after that, my degree actually was in business and French. So I studied that. I had a year abroad. And then when I came back and finished university, I was like, right, what am I going to do? And I actually really struggled with figuring out what I wanted to do. And I always wanted to have my own business. But in the meantime, that feels quite daunting. I had a business mentor actually at university who I'm actually now working with now on silent break. So it's really cool how things kind of come back round. And then, yeah, I spent basically pretty much most of my career working in luxury hospitality and events. So everything I've done has basically been building relationships, been building client relationships, creating events and experiences. Like you say, putting on events for some of the people and some of the brands listed before as well. So yeah, it's been incredible. And obviously, yeah, most of my life now I actually live in Surrey, so just outside London, and I've got a little baby. So yeah, things are busy for sure, but really, yeah, really great. So
Nice. Thank you for shedding more light
no,
on your background. There was something you mentioned. I always like to listen behind the lines, or between the lines rather. And you mentioned that yeah, you went to school, uni, you studied business administration and French, and then a year abroad you came back, and then you're wondering what am I going to do with my life?
yeah.
Do you think? Do you think? Well, I just want to get your perspective on this. Do you think that the educational system prepares us for life after school?
No, and I think there's lots of different. I think it depends, obviously, what you're studying, right? And I'm sure, obviously, there's so many professions where there's quite a clear path in where you go. Like, for example, with you
Yeah,
with medicine, you need to go to university and do the certain things. I think I wanted to have my own business, and I think there were so many incredible things. Like, I loved my university, and I loved the whole experience and the social, like the friendships I've made. So I 100% absolutely loved everything about university, and I wouldn't ever go back and change anything for the world. But I do think that there was definitely a point in time where I finished university and I just didn't really, it was almost like you finish and then that was it. There wasn't really a lot of support in terms of figuring out what to do next. And I was really, yeah, I definitely struggled for a while. And I think it just really depends about what it is you want to do. But for
mm,
sure, I would have. I know now. Actually, I was speaking last week at Graduate Fashion Week, and
yeah,
a few people were talking about the importance of like actually networking and things like that. And I was saying like I really wish I'd gone and kind of spoken to more people about their careers and what they were doing as well, and kind of understood and maybe said to people, can I just learn a little bit more about what you do and have more time to really figure out what I wanted. Whereas I was quite keen to be like, right, I need to pick a career and kind of stick to it. And now the more I'm looking back, the more I'm kind of like, eventually anyway, I think as long as you're following something you care about, I find that things
mm,
often end up aligning in some way, because there's always kind of a thread. I realized that my thread between everything I did was kind of connection. I've always been wanting to connect with people, I guess. But my career has taken on lots of many forms, but I suppose that's the main thing that's kind of in the thread. And I think if we can spend more time figuring out like what that thread is, it doesn't have to be like what your profession is, but something that you care about and how you can link that in, I think is
yeah.
really important. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you just touched on what you like doing, and I think it can be a nice segue to go into the next question, which is what is it that you're actually passionate about? What are the things that make you happy? What gets you up at night? What wakes you up early in the morning to say yes, I'm good to go. Monday morning is not like a drag. What are those things that you're passionate about?
You know what? It's funny. I always say kind of the same thing in terms around connection, but I'd say there's actually a
Yeah,
few things. I felt I would probably summarize it down to connecting people and ideas, something around kind of those two things. But I guess the things that keep me up, and I always think it's the things that either keep me up at night or it's the things I get excited to do, or that feeling when you're so busy doing something you completely lose track of time. it's kind of really get into like that flow state. I guess the main things are when it comes to, I am quite extroverted quite naturally, and I love being around people. I definitely get a lot of my energy externally. Don't get me wrong, I need time like everybody to recharge. I definitely, for sure, I'm not completely far on the spectrum, but I definitely say that I am quite extroverted. So for me, the idea that I get to spend time connecting with people, going to events, hosting events, speaking, being able to feel like I'm building deeper connections with people is really important to me. For sure, having more important conversations, impactful conversations. So I'd say anything around connecting people is really important to me, and helping other people also connect. And the other thing is ideas. Like I love coming up with ideas. I love running with ideas. I think one of my favorite things is when people just sit down and they're like, right, I really want to figure out how to grow my business. Like, where do we start? And I just love coming up with ideas and seeing possibilities and seeing where things can go. And I guess I'm also really passionate about well-being and mental health. So I am someone who has, I mean, you could probably tell even by normally how quickly I speak, but I tend to be on a bit of a kind of hamster wheel. I definitely have struggled in the past to kind of know when to get off, because I think when I do get very into something, I find it really hard to stop, I guess. Like even with work, you know, I will work and work and work and sometimes forget to look after myself as much. And actually, my mum is a therapist, and growing up with a parent who's a therapist is incredible, because my parents and all my family actually and friends have always been really great as well at kind of being like, you know, maybe you need to slow down. And I do think that there's, yeah, especially around the ideas of kind of burnout, preventing burnout, spending time focusing on mental health and mental well-being. I feel like it's a really important conversation, and I'm very, very much passionate about that as well. So with all my work, I guess it can be indirectly or directly, but everything I'm really trying to do is either helping people in terms of connecting and also mental well-being, mental health as well. So I'd say they're the main topics.
All right. I totally believe and I agree with that, because I've been, since I met you and following some of your work and having a chat with you, I believe that that's what you actually stand for: connecting people, ideas, and well-being.
Yeah.
Have you always known that these are the things that you're passionate about, or at what point did you realize that, oh, I actually like doing this?
You know what? I think when it comes to connection, I was always someone. So I'm actually an only child, and I remember growing up. My mum always was quite encouraging of me to just go out and make friends. You know, bring a friend on holiday with you and do a lot of that. And I definitely have always been quite an outgoing person. I think mainly because coming maybe from a family where you are kind of a single child, I think definitely, you know, you're quite encouraged to like make lots of friends and things. And I think I've always been someone that's wanted to go and connect with people, and that's always just been kind of a lot of my personality. And I think I always wanted to do something where I felt like I was connecting with people, so that definitely has probably been a kind of running thread through most things that I've done. I think when it comes to the mental well-being and kind of psychology side of it, with my mum being a therapist, it was always something that was quite interesting to me. And actually for a while I really wanted to go down that route and become a therapist. And yeah, I was really interested in it for sure. I think it's something that I've always thought, but I didn't really know how I would work with it, because I'm not necessarily wanting to train to become a therapist as such, but I'm very much interested in how I can support people around those topics. Or for example, I facilitate a lot of events where we talk about well-being, and we'll talk about that and have more conversations around it. But I definitely think my skills lie more in facilitating conversations around these topics and creating events and things, rather than necessarily being a therapist. But I wouldn't say, I think they're themes that when you look back, it kind of makes sense that they've always probably been there. But I don't think I really thought about a lot of these things until kind of after university, probably. When I was at university, I very much, sorry, not university, when I was in school, when I was about 16, I wanted to go into law. But when I think back to it, I was quite interested in criminal law or family law. But a lot of when I think back, the threads of what I wanted to do was like, I wanted to like help people. I wanted to support people in some way. I was quite interested in family law and helping. I don't know. I think there's now when you look back in hindsight, it's easy, I suppose, to see where these threads were, for sure. And I guess when it comes to business and studying business management, that for me, again, probably around the idea of creating ideas. I think that idea generation I was saying before about being quite creative and coming up with different ideas and problem solving. I guess that was always maybe a bit of a thread as well. But yeah, definitely took time to figure those things out for sure.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you made it clear that you found out you're passionate about different things at different points in your life. So for someone who's like, oh, what am I really passionate about? It just shows that you don't have to get it all figured out at the start. You will just keep doing what you're doing, and you find out, oh, I think I actually like this, you know what? Sometimes the way you know what you like is by knowing what you do not like. So I think just go out there, explore, um, just see where life takes you with some intentionality or anyway. But yeah, eventually find out what you're passionate about and what will truly make you happy. I'm quite curious about the luxury hospitality sector because I don't really know much about it. Um, what's it like working in, or what's it been like working in the luxury hospitality sector? Do you get to meet a lot of people? What's it really like for people who are as curious as I am?
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, it's incredible. I think it's a whole, it's a really exciting industry. I definitely feel like hospitality in general is literally based on connection. It's based on how you make people feel. It's all about creating that kind of luxury customer experience. So much of my role. So I actually, for a while, was kind of freelancing within events and luxury hospitality. Then I actually was head of events for a luxury hospitality brand. So everything I did was about coming up with these ideas for creating events, creating experiences, maintaining that client relationship as well, coming up with ideas for partnerships and collaborations and events. So it's a very sociable role for sure. I think most people in hospitality will tell you that it is very social. And I think it does become very much, it becomes often part of a lifestyle. Not always, but I think when you're in that space, it's very easy for it to become really part of everything that you do. I mean, for me personally, I love the whole industry. I love going to hotels. I feel like when you're meeting other people who are also in the same space, lots of people kind of start to know each other and things. It's a really great industry. And I definitely feel like I got quite connected even with the clients that I had, because for a while I was wedding planning. And that would mean I would work with a client and probably then I would meet them and probably be working with them for maybe 2 years, planning their weddings and things like that. And you really get to know people and build a relationship with them. And then often they're coming back for, a children's party or something in the future. So you see people over a kind of long period of time and you get to know people. And the same with, the hotel, and not only just guests that come, but also the people that you work with in the industry. I think you've got to have a real love for that, for hospitality. But I think who doesn't, right? Who doesn't love going to like nice hotels and nice restaurants and things, and a lot of great food for sure. My favorite part,
Yeah.
honestly, of the time was doing all the tastings and things for like the menus. But no, it's lovely. And I was lucky enough to be working with some really cool brands as well. So yeah, definitely when it comes to events, and you do sometimes kind of miss the glamour of some of the really cool events and things that you do. Yeah, it's a good industry.
Yeah, because that's because whenever I think about luxury hospitality, what comes to my mind is glitz and glam, living the glamorous life, and that's why I asked. And it's interesting to for you to say because I used to have that ambition that a lot of people are very superficial in such industry, but from what you're telling me, there's a lot of connection. Like what you said, you get to know people truly, so it's not everything you see on TV. There's actually the human aspect to it, and it's interesting to find out. Um, what then? How then do you integrate your values into what you do? What you told us what you're passionate about. Are there some things that are absolutely non-negotiable for you? What are your values?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I keep going back probably to this idea of connection, but I do think it's really important. For one of the main things for me is this idea of treating other people how you want to be treated,
Mm.
and also really thinking of that whole experience. It's that whole, the Maya Angelou quote, the really famous one, about people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them
I
feel.
made them feel, yeah.
And it's so important. And I think when it comes to values, for me, yeah, when it comes to just having those relationships, I think the relationships, whether personally or professionally, they'll always be the most important things to me. I think whether this is in your personal life or even in a work setting, I think finding people around you that you have share the same values with. So I think that's really important in terms of connection, and definitely working in hospitality, for example, and even what I do now in terms of events and speaking, everything is about connecting people. So I think that's definitely something that's been really important in terms of values. Yeah, for sure. I think one of my most important ones, definitely.
I'm going to ask you a question that might make you think because something you might have to reflect on. But can you recall a time when connecting people, someone actually came and said, "Oh, I was able to achieve this because you connected me with this person," and how did that make you feel?
Yeah, you know what? It's happened a lot, which is actually really, really lovely. So often, if I make introductions for people, or sometimes if I've hosted an event and then someone's met someone else there, And I think it's really lovely. I absolutely love feeling like I've had some form of impact and helped someone in some way. And I really think people underestimate the importance of connecting someone with, it's like people often come to you and they might say, can you help me with something? And you try and help them. But then going away sometimes and thinking, actually, I think I know someone else who could help me even more than me. And you sometimes forget that the importance of just connecting someone with somebody else could literally be life-changing for them. And when I think of all the different connections people have made for me and introductions people have made and how I've ended up, meeting people and then something's gone on to that, I always say, don't always necessarily be looking for what the outcome is or think, oh, I need to connect with that person for that reason. It's like, just be open to connecting because you never know where it will take you. Sure, it might help you in some way, but also you might be able to help somebody else. And I think it's more about just finding people who do share your values. And I think that feeling for sure when you feel like you've been able to help someone and you connected someone. And yeah, I've definitely hosted events. I did a talk actually a while ago and a couple of people met there and they've messaged afterwards to be like, oh, we've met up and things like that. And just when you feel that people have connected and a friendship's been formed, I think that's really incredible. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, thank you for what you do. I always like it when people actually create events like that because as the world becomes more and more digital, it seems like such spaces are becoming rarer and rarer. But when people actually create events like what you do with the Home of Connection, which we'll talk about in a bit, where people can actually come together and actually truly connect, I think it's something that is remarkable and applaudable. So thank you for what you do. I'm going to say this for the purpose of people who are joining. I think when I put up the poster for this event, I think the first step was networking experts. Well, I know that especially from your TEDx talk, it's something that I think that term networking you've had to rethink about that word, and now you use the word connector. So what is a connect? Who is a connector, and why do you choose that? Why do you choose that word or that term connector?
Yeah, so I choose that because I know often when I mention networking to people, straight
Yeah.
away you get people being like, oh no, I think they often think it feels quite salesy, it feels quite transactional, quite strategic, as though you're having to kind of go and promote yourself and everything you do. And I think it can feel really off-putting. And even as someone who is quite extroverted and quite likes going out and meeting new people and connecting, I still find that the idea of networking can make me feel uncomfortable. I always imagine going to events and the first thing people ask you is like, what do you do? And you suddenly feel like you're on show and you're having to be like, to say all the best things about what you do so that someone thinks you're interesting or something. And I just don't like feeling like, first of all, I feel like you should want to connect with people for anyway, because it's nice to connect and be thinking about how you can help them rather than how they can just help you. But also there's so many benefits to networking. But I think networking, when you're thinking about it in the actual sense of what it should be, is about connecting. It's literally about connecting, whether it's to find collaborators and people who share your ideas and share your thoughts and can kind of get an idea off the ground, whether it's to share best practice with somebody, whether it's to problem solve. I think there's so many different reasons to kind of network as such. And I think the basis of networking comes from actually connecting. And I think the best networking is done when you build a lasting relationship and a long-term connection. So I felt like the term connector was felt nicer, to be honest. And kind of, I think if you say to someone, in fact, someone actually once did describe me as a professional networker, and I was a bit like, oh, are they just saying that I'm like this really sales? Like I found it quite off-putting, and I thought, oh no, I hope that's not how I'm seen. And it did make me think that actually I think connector just feels so much nicer. And I would say that is what I do, because as much as I'm trying to connect for myself, I also want to connect other people and help other people and do introductions. And I think I guess what I believe is that the world really needs more connection and more people being connectors and facilitating that connection as well. Because not everyone does feel really comfortable turning up to a networking event and connecting with people. So if you can be the person that connects them for them and helps people to connect, then that's a really nice thing to be doing. And I think, yeah, there needs to be more people doing that as well and being conscious about how you're connecting people.
Right. And there's a lot of us that are professionals, and just like you said, we're not comfortable with the traditional setting of networking. And what we do instead is stay in our box, stay with our circle of friends, stay within our with people that our colleagues at work. And is there something that we're missing out by just confining ourselves to boxes of our family and work circles? Is there something that we can be gaining by connecting more with people?
Yeah, so I've probably got lots to say on this topic, and I'm going to try and keep it and not say too much and kind of go on for too long, because it's definitely something I love to talk about. But I feel like one thing is, when we're only connecting with people who we work with or people who already exist in our lives, I feel like we get in echo chambers. It's really easy to just only be with people that think the same as us. And I think there's so much value to come from being with people who think differently and give you a new perspective and a new idea. And I think that's just so important. And I think we definitely need to be doing that more, because that's how we are. Yeah, we are getting these new ideas. We're really understanding different perspectives and learning. And I think often I've found that some of the best ideas I've had have come from when actually I'm working with someone who thinks quite differently to me and who can kind of challenge me on that idea and give me a new way of thinking about it, rather than just being with people who think exactly the same as us. So I think that's one thing. I think the second thing is the idea of opportunities, in terms of, you never know where one conversation may lead. It often only takes one conversation. And I think we need to be connecting more to see where these conversations can go. If you're only with the same people all the time, you only know those people and those people who those people know. But it's like, even just going a little bit further and reaching out to people, especially if it's someone that also you just admire. Like, the amount of times I've just kind of reached out to someone online and been like, hey, I really love what you do. Or I've gone to an event and met a speaker. And I think sometimes it's really nice just getting out of there and seeing what possibilities and opportunities are out there, and also just connecting with people who have the same values as you and have the same interests, because you can be connecting with people who you work with, you can be connecting with people who are your family and your friends, but also there's so many different sides to you. Like, you're not just your job title, you're not just your status, not just who your friends are. Like, there's so many more things. And for me, there's definitely been interests as well that I have, where I've thought it'd be really cool to connect with someone who works in that space. Like, that's really interesting to me. And I think for sure, I'm a big advocate of just going out and connecting with people and just seeing where it may lead, and not thinking about it in a way where, it has to be transactional. I think people often think, well, what's the point of me, I don't know, connecting with that person? Like, I don't know, like, maybe you're looking to progress in your industry and you think, oh, that person might not be able to help me. It's like, first of all, the world just needs more connection. It's not just about who can help you. First of all, maybe you could help that person, but also it's also who else that other person knows. It's who else is, it's just, there's so many more reasons to connect. And I think we should just be wanting to connect because it's a really great thing to do. And I think it helps people in so many ways. And if you are looking to progress your career as well, then the idea of connecting with more people and being more known and increasing your visibility and your network, whether in your company or whether in your industry as a whole, is surely going to also be beneficial in terms of finding opportunities as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that networking or connecting with people outside our echo says is actually advantageous. Just like you said, we get new ideas and it can even help with career progression. I personally can attest to several times that just meeting someone took me a step further than I would have gone if I had not met that person. So I think the advice for everyone that is listening today, if you're a professional, is don't keep yourself in the box. Go out there and meet new people. There's a quote that says that if you're the smartest person in the room, or if you're always the smartest person in the room, then that means that you need to change the room you're in. And for most of us, we're always comfortable in areas where we feel, maybe even if we're not the smartest, where we're most comfortable. And sometimes we need to be stretching out because it's when we are challenging ourselves. It might be uncomfortable, but that's when we actually grow. But a fear that many people have, earlier, I'll tell you, and I also have that fear, maybe two actually, is what if I try to reach out and I'm rejected? That's one. And then the second one is, what if I don't have anything to say? So how do we address these common fears when it comes to connecting with people?
Yeah, of course. That's a really, really good question, actually. And it's something that I do get asked a lot, because I completely appreciate that. I think the first one is being afraid of being rejected. So I think the first thing is, I know that most of the time when people reach out and are like, oh, I really love what you're doing, people actually feel quite flattered, because it's nice for someone to reach out to you. So I think, A, don't worry too much. Chances are that actually people will come back to you and just be very happy that you did reach out. Second of all, if they don't, that's not always a reflection on you. I think so often we feel rejected and think, oh, that person hasn't come back to me. It's like, maybe that person is super, super busy. Maybe that missed that one email. Sometimes people, I feel like I'm busy all the time. And I know there's people where it takes me ages to get back to people sometimes. And And it is one of those things, if it's not about you, like, don't worry about that. Maybe that person is taking a while, but the worst that happens is maybe they don't reply and they take a little bit longer. But, or maybe they say to you, I'm so sorry, I'm so busy at the moment, I'd love to connect in the future. But honestly, I think the benefits of connecting will always often outweigh the idea of being worried about that fear of rejection, because it's like, yes, okay, you might get rejected, but what if you don't? What if they reply to you and say, yes, I'd love to work with you, or I'd love to give you that advice? It's like, for me, the idea of not knowing would be worse than knowing and getting rejected. And also this idea of rejection, it's not being rejected, it's someone being too busy. Someone maybe has something else going on. It doesn't always mean that you're being rejected. I think definitely we feel like that. And I know there's been people that have not got back to me for sure. And I've been like, oh no, it happens. But then the amount of times that people have got back to me will outweigh that. And I just think that's amazing that I still put myself out there and I connected with the other people. And also the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And now I definitely take it a lot, it doesn't really happen in the same way. I don't kind of worry as much now. I just think, oh, well, hopefully they'll get back to me. And I know that when people reach out to me, I'll always try and do the same for them. So I would just say, the more you do it and just thinking of what is the opportunity that might happen, rather than focusing on that, rather than, not doing it and not taking that opportunity. And the second question you asked, which I've now already forgotten, was,
what if I don't have anything to say? And that's more in line with face-to-face conversations. Because if it's online, you can gather some time and think about what you want to say. But what if it's a face-to-face conversation? You reach out to someone, or you take that bold step and go say hello at an event, and you're like, I don't have anything to say.
yeah. So I actually have a list of conversation prompts that I often give to people in a lot of the workshops that I do. I do like networking masterclasses, and I always say, so often I find this whole idea of what do you do being the first question someone asks being very kind of quite stressful. I don't really like it. So I always say, try and think of some other questions that you can kind of go in with ready. So if you're going to an event and you know who's speaking there and there's someone that you want to speak to, then obviously as much preparation you can do in advance, the better. So for example, if you think, right, I really want to speak to that speaker or someone or that panelist, and I know that they work for this company, if you can do the research and find out what they've been working on, people love talking about something they enjoy. So if you say, oh, it's really interesting, I read your book on this, I thought it was really fantastic, people love that because you're flattering them. And also it shows you've done your homework and researched it, and people then aren't having to, you're making it easy for them. They don't have to kind of promote or anything what they're doing, because you've already said to them, like, I love what you do. And they're just like, oh, great, thank you. So it makes people feel so much more at ease. So that's one thing, if you know who you're speaking to. And if you don't know who you're going to speak to and you're at a networking event and it's a case of making the first kind of conversation, even just saying things like, what brought you here today? Like, what speakers are you here to see? Thinking about the event, or oh yeah, how come you're here? Like, what are you looking to gain from the day? Because often we presume that we know, but actually you don't know why someone's there. And this is why sometimes I find that question of what do you do so limiting, because you could be working in finance and you could be at a photography event because you're a photographer on the side, and someone says to you, what do you do? I work in finance. It's like, well, I work in finance, but also I'm a photographer, and this is what I'm passionate about, and this is why I'm here. It's like trying to find out why someone's there, what they want, what they're looking to do, anything exciting you've been working on recently. You're getting people talking about things that they're excited about already. And once you get them onto a topic that they feel comfortable with, people open up so much more. I know if someone asked me about, I mean, it's interesting actually, but depends. But people have said to me, oh, I've seen what you're working on, or they've said to me, what are you working on? And it means that you can choose what you want to talk about. Sometimes people ask me about my family life, what I did at the weekend, or even just like, how are you today? And then it starts me being like, oh, I'm good actually. Like, I've had a bit of a rushed morning because I had to drop my son off before. And it just kind of gets you talking about parts of your personality and parts of you and who you are that you wouldn't necessarily have included in your answer to what do you do, for example. So yeah, there's lots of different ideas, but I would say going along with the whole, like, what's brought you here today? What speakers are you here to see? Anything exciting you're working on at the moment? Anything like that really, I think, is quite a good one. And also just knowing that even if you say something that you think, oh, why did I say that? We've all been in situations where you've maybe been a little bit nervous about what to say, and then you've said something and you've thought, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. But it's like, people can sense your intention rather than like the result of what you've said. So even if you say something and you think, oh, I don't know why I asked that question or why I said that, people aren't really listening. They'll have thought is how you've made them feel, which is you asked a question, you showed interest. That's what people care about. So just showing interest and being interested, complimenting someone if you want to. I actually had a person recently at an event. They came up to me and they were like, "Oh, I really love this lady's boots, but do you think that's like a good conversation starter, or is that weird saying like, 'Hey, I love your boots'?" I was like, "Say you love her
Mhm.
boots, great boots. Like, don't worry, like go for it. Like whatever makes you feel comfortable doing it, I think is absolutely fine." And knowing that everyone else is probably in the exact same situation as you and feeling exactly the same. So
Well, this is something I'm going to play over again because it's going to help me because you're doing a lot of things. We can use conversation starters or prompts. We can sometimes do your homework when if you want to meet someone in particular and you know the person's going to be at the event, do some homework, find out about what interests the person, um, and then you can also go with just being authentic, being interested in the person. And yeah, I think yeah, rather than because a lot of times you get that question, what do you do? What do you do? And I personally, and that's why sometimes like I've done several things. I've not put my title because I'm like, what I do is not who I am. Give me the space to express who I am. What I do doesn't necessarily tie in with who I am. And yeah, I think what do you do is a very close-ended question, and sometimes it doesn't give people the opportunity to express themselves. And yeah, I totally agree with you. Um, we've talked a lot about how connection can actually help with our being successful. Well, can it also help with our well-being, connecting more with people? How, does it have a role to play with well-being? Because I know you're also interested in mental health and well-being.
yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, I think connection, yeah, is the most important thing, whether professionally or personally. In fact, I think personally, even even more so. Um, for sure. I think one of the most important things, even as someone who has struggled a little bit getting close to burnout and things like that, the idea of just having people who know us and support us. I always say the idea of finding your champions, which you actually alluded to at the start of this as well, which I completely agree with. It's like, who's in your corner? Who are your champions? Who are the people advocating for you, supporting you, who really understand you? Because you only need like one or two, you only need a few people just to feel like they're there to help you when you are, like you say, whether it's for kind of fulfillment and happiness in life, whether it's for well-being, whether it's that we're wanting people in terms of sorry, let me actually rephrase that, but as in whatever it is that we're looking to kind of do or achieve in life, whether personally or professionally, having those people around us who actually support us. And I think when it comes to, I think the quote you even said at the start, which was about, you know, the quality of our relationships really determine, you know, the quality of our lives. It's so true. And there's been so many studies. I think actually I was reading about one the other day, which was, I think, an 85-year-old study, the one at Harvard University, all about this idea of, it was all about studying longevity and happiness. And the result from it was basically like, it's the quality of your relationships. That's what it comes down to, this idea of social fitness, and of actually, you know, practicing connection and actually putting the effort in. I think we do so much around like mental well-being, which obviously is really important, physical well-being, but it's like social well-being as a theme, this idea of really putting effort in to maintain our relationships, not just to connect with new people, which although I'm a massive advocate for, it's also once we have these connections and once we have these relationships, what can we be doing to really spend time growing them, and putting the effort in to maintain them? Because it all comes down to this idea of, you know, we're looking for our champions, but then how are we championing other people? What are we doing to also support them and be in their corner, and really work on the quality? And I think we are in such a hyper connected world where we all feel very connected, but that's quite a superficial connection. It's like technology is incredible and it's really great to be connected on Instagram with somebody and feel like you know what's happening in their life. But just because you see the highlight reel and know what's happening, or just because we feel like we're connected and we could pick up the phone easily, doesn't mean that actually we're always building meaningful connection with people. And we need to be having more deeper connections, better conversations, and spending more time meaningfully connecting with people rather than just feeling like, oh, I can call them, or, you know, making it feel like, 'cause I think at the moment we are always on. Like, I feel like I'm so accessible all the time. Like, anyone can pick up the phone, you can text people, but just because you can reach someone and be connected with them doesn't mean you're actually connected.
Mhm.
And I think the importance of having people, um, yeah, in our lives that we feel connected to, those relationships, for sure impacts our well-being, our overall mental health.
I totally agree with you. And you actually went a step ahead of me because the next thing I was going to ask you was, can we be connected? Can we be truly connected in this social media age? What are your thoughts on that? I mean, because for some of us, we're still that hybrid between I don't know what to call it, and social media. I mean, before social media, pre-social media age and social media, we saw social media come up. So we still have, but for new generation, some of them grew up with social media right from the start. And is it possible then? Are there ways to actually be connected with people through social media? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. And don't get me wrong, like I spend most of my time and have most of my conversations with people often online as well in terms of meetings and things. And I do think that there is so much to be said for connecting and actually feeling connected with people online. But I definitely think for me, I personally like in real life connection, obviously, I think it's so important. And the more time we can actually spend with people, um, in person, I think is definitely fantastic. But I think even in terms of our online relationships, just making that effort to have that connection, to message people rather than just presuming that because we've seen what they're doing on social media, that means we know what's going on in their life. I know for one, I feel like I'll be like, oh yeah, I've seen Almy and my friend's great, like I saw they were out this weekend or whatever, and it's like, oh, I know what they're doing, so you feel connected. But actually it's like maybe I didn't actually message that person though and say and ask how they are and ask what actually how they're finding it, because there's only so much you're showing on social media versus how much is actually going on behind the scenes. So I'm not saying if you can't see people in real life, it's not a case of always trying to meet up with people in real life if we can't. But this idea of putting the effort in to connect. I've actually got a friend of mine who every now and then she'll we've always done it, it's actually quite fun, but we sometimes like write each other letters and things because we're not really living close by. And it was something we did a while ago because my friends laughed at me quite a lot because I am someone who will write like messages and birthday cards quite a lot, and like I'll like write long messages. And it was our way of being like, right, let's just have a way to message each other. And it feel kind of like quite old school and quite fun because I do think my grandma when I was younger making me like write these long thank you letters to like family. And I had like one of her friends was in the US, and I would write these big letters about everything I'd been doing. And I just wonder how often we're really putting that effort in to uphold and kind of maintain that connection, whether it is in real life or whether it is online.
Yeah, I think just like you said, sometimes if social media is good, we are hyper connected, but it doesn't take away from us that ability to be intentional, like just like you said, putting a lot of energy and effort to growing and maintaining relationships. Just like you said, writing out, you don't have to necessarily go to the person's house, but writing out the card, the handwritten card means a lot in this day and age. How many people actually give you handwritten cards? People just send you a broadcast or something, um, or an emoji or something, happy birthday. But you know when someone takes the time to actually write something out, I think it's that intentionality. You can also still display intentionality in helping you to be connected to someone.
For sure. I saw actually a few of my friends from school, we send each other kind of like memes all the time. And I saw this thing that was like, oh, it's like when your friends are basically connecting with you by just sending you videos. And I'm like, basically what we do is just send each other videos all the time. But for me, I
Mhm.
know that's like a point of connection. That's something that we do. And it's like, I think it's just finding whatever it is, whatever way you connect with someone, and things it's different. You can't expect everyone to want to connect in the same way. Some of your friends might want to have like hour-long calls. Some people might voice note you all the time. You might have other friends that you don't really hear from that much, but when they do, they really message you. And it's like it's not always
Yeah,
about the quantity, it's about the quality in those connections.
I agree. I agree. I think that's the summary: quality over quantity. I totally agree with you. I know you co-founded the Home of Connection. I
Yes.
like the name. What's the Home of Connection all about? Tell us a bit more about it.
Yeah, so Home of Connection is basically so it's a consultancy, event series, a movement designed to transform the way we connect. So there's kind of two sides to it. So one part of it is we do talks and workshops around the idea of improving connection. So for my side, it's obviously more about relationships as well, obviously the networking masterclasses, and also I do it with my co-founder Maud Hurst, who's a meditation expert. So we talk, so obviously from her side as well, a lot of kind of well-being focus, but everything comes down really to how we can connect better with our teams, our clients, and each other as well. And then on the other side of that, we're also hosting events to bring people together and build more meaningful connections. So we do a lot of digital detox evenings where we'll bring people together, have supper clubs or drinks and panel talks, fireside chats, that kind of thing, and basically be kind of creating this new way of networking. So it's the idea of bringing people together, but trying to really facilitate more meaningful connection and deeper conversation as well.
Thank you. And I think if I could summarize in two words or what you do in two words, connection and well-being. And now I know that you're doing something exciting as well, which is a digital detox resort. Where did that come from, and what should we be looking out for? Tell us about Silent Break.
Yeah, so no, it's very exciting. It's actually something I've been really interested in doing for a long time. So I'm actually doing it with a couple of friends of mine as well. So I'm on the founding team of Silent Break. And we have a piece of land in Portugal, and now we're building basically this off-grid resort. So everything is about how we can help solo travelers really disconnect from everyday life and technology. So I don't know if you've ever heard of but Bill Gates and a lot of entrepreneurs would do this Think Week, where they would go to a cabin in the middle of nowhere, with a load of books. And we want to basically create the ideal environment to actually experience that. So that's what we're building. So yeah, we've got land in Portugal, and it is going to take a long time, but please, if you do want to hear about it and things, obviously our website is up, silentbreak.co. And yeah, we're just basically updating people on the journey and how we're building it. And then we can't wait to be able to welcome people as soon as we're open as well. But yeah, it's a really important project to me. It's something I'm very, very passionate about, and combines my background in luxury hospitality with this importance of well-being as well, and really connecting with yourself, because as much as I talk about connecting with other people, we all know that also all comes down to how you connect with yourself. So I think being able to create experiences and places that really help you facilitate that connection with yourself it's fundamental to actually connecting better with other people as well. So
And it's interesting that you mentioned that. I think this episode would not have been complete without us thinking about it. As much as you want to connect to other people. Do you really take time to connect with yourself? And I think that's very key for many of us, because we're always in the hustle and bustle, um, always on the go, working today, and even sometimes we think, yeah, with family time we're doing that, but do you really take time to connect with yourself? Many times, many of us, when we say we're relaxing, what we're doing is we're just scrolling through social media, or we're
yeah,
binging on a series.
rolling, yeah.
And exactly, and you find out that a lot of people cannot actually stay, well, they think that they cannot stay by themselves for 2 days without technology, and just connect with themselves, connect with their values, reflect on their lives. Uh, yeah, so I think it's really interesting, and I think it's also very important. Is this something that you've tried before? Have you had any benefits from it?
Yeah, so to be honest, I think it's something that I've really been trying to be more thoughtful about at the weekends, because I do spend so much of my time online. Like I'm online a lot for meetings. I obviously try and do a lot of in-person things as much as I can, but of course I spend a lot of my time online. So for me, it was trying to do that at the weekend, and being able to actually switch off. And this was the idea of, how can we really be creating a place where you can actually do that? Because I know for me sometimes, unless I know I'm going somewhere where I can't use my phone, I almost find it quite hard. Even when I'm at home, I sometimes try and put my phone away and things and try and turn it off. But for me, I found the best way is going to like a spa or something. I'll go to somewhere with a spa, and then, because I literally cannot use my phone in the spa, I find it forces me to do it. And I've obviously tried it each time, doing it for a little bit longer. So I think the idea is, obviously, if you do it for 3 days or something, it's really incredible in terms of actually resetting. And it's that moment when you start kind of reaching for your phone automatically. Because I know when I have put my phone away, I automatically find myself going out to like grab my phone, and then I'm like, oh no, it's not there. Whereas when it's next to me, I just find myself like, the amount of times I just pick it up and just like even just check something, and then suddenly you get carried away. And I'm just really trying to be better. So yeah, so for me, for sure, it's so important. And I think with this resort, it's the idea of being more intentional and helping other people do the same thing. And I think if you have a place where other people are doing that as well together, and it's this idea, right, we're putting our phones away, we're not going to be focusing on that. We're going to completely avoid all other distractions, and then focus on whatever it is you want, whether it literally is, maybe it is just reading or writing, maybe it's just sitting there and relaxing in the spa and doing absolutely nothing else. But it's just having that time. I think as well, for me, it's been getting creative. For me, like, everyone always says, your best ideas come when you're in the shower or when you're traveling. They're not coming where you're in front of a screen. But again, maybe it is something like doing a workshop or something that gets you really creative. Like for me, I actually really I used to do a lot of like scrapbooking and things like that. And I really enjoy being quite creative, but I think it's finding ways of doing that. And also, obviously, it's something where when your hands are busy, maybe you're not on your phone, right? Because you can't be. So big advocate for doing things like that kind of get you away from your phones, even though I am someone that, like I say, I do spend a lot of time on technology, but I think that's why it's even more important to find that balance.
Talking about balance, which is probably going to be the last question I'm going to ask you today. I know you recently became a mother, and you shared your journey on social media about motherhood. So how then do you it's a two-in-one question. One is, how has that changed your perspective on life, being a mother, and how do you balance how do you balance work, all the things you do, and being a mother? How do you put it all together?
Yeah, I mean motherhood has been incredible, I think it was something for me that I always did want, but I was always quite nervous because I thought how can I kind of do all these different things? And I think I really love obviously what I do career-wise as well. So it definitely is tough. I think any parent will tell you trying to find that balance is really difficult. I'd say one thing that I can't say it's what I'm trying to make it work. I feel like it's working, but I think is this idea that I definitely try and combine things now. And I think it's something that I read about a while ago called kind of this like five slice approach, this idea of splitting your time rather than it being work and personal life, because then it makes you
Hmm.
feel like you have to take one from the other. It's working out how you can combine things. And for me, I've always been someone previously who has very much been like, right, I'm going to keep everything separate. And although I do in some ways, so for example, if I am working, I am very much working and I will yeah, very much focusing on that. And obviously, when I'm with Zavi, I try not to be on my phone and things like that. Obviously, that's very much easier said than done. It's quite difficult to always maintain that. But I do find that in other areas of my life, I'm trying to combine different things. So I guess if I am feeling like I need to do something really, like maybe I want to go to an event, for example, but I really want to see a friend, I'll try and combine those and go together to that event with a friend. It's this idea of
Yeah.
finding out what energy or what rest you need. Is it like intellectual rest? Is it spiritual rest? Whatever kind of rest it is, or whatever energy it is, and trying to combine these different things together for sure, I think is one. I also think it is about working with people who understand that as well in both businesses. So obviously with Home of Connection, obviously my co-founder there, Maud, and obviously on the team with Silent Break as well. I feel like I'm working with people who really understand that and are really so helpful with it as well, and understand that maybe it is a case of sometimes I'm working more in the evenings because that's when I've been able to, or maybe I've been working more in the mornings. But for sure, I think it is something that is difficult. And I think that's why surrounding yourself with people who are there to really support you and help you is the most important thing, because people say, it takes a village, and it really
Hmm.
does. And however that village looks like to you,
Yeah.
however it's comprised of, whoever those people are, it's not even just physical help. I think it's mental support for you as well
Mm.
as a parent, having people who just want to ask you how you are and who you can talk to. So there's so many different ways, but I just say curating that kind of group and finding those people is really good. But for sure, it's a learning curve. So I'll keep you updated and let you know how it is in another year. But a year in, yeah.
You're doing really well. Thank you so much, Ellie. I think we've got only 2 minutes or thereabout to go. I've not noticed any questions from the audience. So I think we've had a really good conversation today, something that is what we're playing over and over again. I think some of my highlights is for us to put effort into growing and maintaining relationships. Yeah, you talked about treating others how you want to be treated, and we should be open to connecting. Some of our best ideas come from people who think differently from us. So we should actually take that bold step and to connect with people. I like what you said, that sometimes we worry about we fear the risk of connecting, but actually the benefits of connecting outweigh the risk of connecting with people. Connection makes us truly happy, and something that we all should think about doing. And I think the most important one is also making out space and time to connect with yourself. I think for
Yeah.
me that is a key message I want to take home from today's conversation. So if you want to find out more about you, Ellie, how do you do that?
Yeah, so please, I'm on LinkedIn. It's probably the best in terms of, it's just Ellie Turner Coughlin on LinkedIn. Website is also Ellie Turner Coughlin, spelt like Coughlin, by the way, Coug. I probably should just say Coughlin, yeah. And then obviously silentbreak.co is the website for that. And then homeofconnection.co.uk as well for any events. So yeah, but no, I always love connecting with people. I always often say this, but I do really, really mean it. I love making new connections and seeing how I can help. So yeah, always feel free to connect on LinkedIn. Or yeah, Instagram, but Instagram is mainly pictures of more personal life stuff, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said at the start, I can attest to that because it was nearly a year ago that I met you at the TEDx event, and your reception was so warm, and you're like, "Yeah, let me know how can I help." And that's I think is truly remarkable, and it's something that I really appreciate about you. So it seems like we only just started like a second ago, but believe it
I
or not, it's 1 hour. It's 1 hour already. So thank you so much, Ellie, for taking out time to tell us about connection, tell us about what you love and what you like doing. And it'll be great to continue seeing your great work that you do all over social media and in person. I think someone just posted a comment. Someone said, "Thank you for this informative session." So thank you so much, Ellie, for taking out time this Sunday evening, which everyone is kind of like busy doing. Probably a lot of people are watching England's match at the moment, but thank you so much for taking out time. I truly appreciate it. And for everyone who's either watching live or is going to watch the replay, as I always like to close, till we meet again on the last Sunday of the month, just make sure you keep living with passion and purpose. I'll see you all later. Thank you so much, Ellie.
Thank you so much. And I love this whole podcast as well. So yeah, you're doing an amazing job. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.